Welcome back to Sage Advice. I'm your host, Hamza Khan, and this is the show where we ask the questions that matter while there's still time to live by the answers. Today's guest is an OG, was part of season 1 of Ideas into Action, the precursor of this show, the heart and soul of this show. None other than my brother from another mother, Adam Rodricks, someone who's mastered the art of making stories travel far and wide. He is a best-selling author, an international award-winning strategist, and the National Director of Social Growth and Experience at KPMG Canada. You've probably seen his work, whether you knew it or not, because Adam is the force behind some of the country's most impactful digital campaigns. But behind the accolades is a storyteller with a heart. Someone who's figured out how to help others find their voice, amplified with integrity, and leave a meaningful digital footprint. Adam Rodricks.
Hamza, as a brown man, it's hard, but I think you just made me blush.
I can kind of see it beneath the beard, man. I've learned to detect it between the black and the gray, the salt and the pepper, which, by the way, man, as far as brown guys aging gracefully are concerned, I think you and I are like LeBron Jordan, man. I'm just putting that out there, man.
We are up there. And, I still lament the grays, right? My wife, she finds all these things and tells me all the time, we could try the solution. I said, you know what? This is me. I'm just going to rock it. I'm going to own it and hope that I end up like the Clune Man and it just looks dapper.
The Clune Man. Fellow speaker, do you know Riaz Megji by chance?
Only by reputation. And he rocks the gray tremendously.
Dude, I'm looking forward to it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know, sir, if you are dyeing that or not, but either way, if that is on the other side of this transition, I'm all in, man. Silver Fox life, let's do it, baby.
Yeah, that's so great. Sometimes I forget my audience and I'll be, sitting around the table with my friends who are all in their late 30s and I'll start talking about the grays and God, they're coming on so fast, only to look across the table and talk to my friend who's balding. And there's just no sympathy there, right? So as far as aging goes, I'll take the hand that I've been dealt.
Amen. Amen, brother. Now, for listeners and viewers, I haven't named this community yet. We're going to co-create a name, but I'm leaning towards learners. The learners have already I've figured out that the cadence of this conversation is a lot faster than previous episodes. And that is due in large part to you, sir. Adam Rodricks, you hold the record for the shortest Ideas into Action episode. That doesn't mean it wasn't packed and full of gems, but man, you speak very quickly. And to quote 50 Cent, I thought, here we are, 2 minutes in and we're already dropping hip-hop references.
Yeah, it didn't take long.
I don't speak fast, you listen slow. So I'm going to do my best to hang here, but I have a mandate. The big reason for bringing you back is that I love you. I want to learn from you. I want to catch up. We have a lot to talk about, but there's a secondary reason. As soon as we finished that first episode of Ideas into Action, I was like, we got to run this back because my producer was like, was this it? Like, you gave me half a file here. And I'm like, no, this was actually Adam speaking a mile a minute. So one way or another, you are sitting in that seat for at least 60 minutes. We have to break the 49-minute mark.
Let's do it.
We're going to set a record here.
We're going to still set a record. You know what? This chair is comfy, so I'm ready to go.
Okay. Well, sir, then you are going to know this next segment because you have already experienced it with Ideas into Action. It is the Nardwuar segment where I think deeply about my guest and I try to sort of piece together where they're at in life, what they might be feeling, and a gift that comes from the heart that might just spark some unprompted, unscripted conversation.
Beautiful. Let's get it.
Now, what I don't know, I know you're a gamer, but I don't know if you are a first-person shooter fan.
I am. I play anything and everything, and I've actually done some influencer marketing work for Treyarch. Shout out to the Call of Duty games.
Okay.
So I love first-person shooters. My favorite one probably being Halo, and it's amazing because on this day of recording, it's the 25th anniversary of the game Perfect Dark. I don't know if you've played it or remember it at all.
Dude, you are taking me back. Not only have I played it, so much of my identity is built on Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Like it did not help that I was already paranoid about Area 51. Yeah. I now believe that Elvis is over there with the Skidar, and I'm in. I'm so excited for the new game.
Oh,
Perfect Dark. I've already cleared my calendar for this one, although
I'm
they pushed the
impressed.
release date. But
They
yes,
did.
thank you for that deep cut millennial reference as somebody also born in the year 1987. That makes me really happy. And thank you for also shouting out the 25th anniversary of that. I did not know you were a Halo fan. This opens up a whole new dimension or
Absolutely.
a whole new great journey forward, right? Is that what they called the prophets? The
Of
great
course.
leap forward, something or
That's
the other.
right,
One was
that's
Mao
right.
Zedong, the other was the prophet of truth.
You're just impressing me right now. I had no idea because you, I don't think externally have talked about video games ever.
No.
So this is a whole level of geeky Hamza that I didn't even know existed.
Oh, dude, on the other side of this, when I get back home, there is 24 unadulterated hours of Doom Dark Ages.
That's right. That just dropped on May 15th. I'm very impressed, Hamza.
Okay, sir. Well, on that note, I do have a gift for you. And I think that it captures the spirit of two things. Number one, our mutual love of hip hop. I see you as a peer, man. Truly. You and I
Thank you,
have
brother.
sort of built our careers at the same time in lockstep. You know, if we had to pick a hip hop duo, you know, now is not the time to be picking Kanye.
I was going to say.
Just so we know, Kanye is a Nazi now. Like,
Yeah.
I need hope, man. Like this is a terrible time to have any connection with Kanye. If you Google Hamza Khan and sort of like artists that he looked up to in previous iterations of his life, you will find a lot of love for that man who I'm just like, dude, you need help, man.
Yeah,
Please
and we
go
need
get help.
Distance right now. Absolutely.
We need distance. So I picked the second best pairing.
Okay.
It was initially going to be Jay Kanye, but
Yeah.
let's go with Drake and Cole.
Oh, man.
Right? You get to pick which one you want. I'm happy with either.
Yeah.
I prefer Cole. You can have Drake.
Yeah. You know what? Forest Hills Drive being on my Mount Rushmore of albums that were influential to me, since I still live here, I'll take Drake.
That's it. That's it. Oh, man. My mind is drifting and I'm getting away from the gift over here. The gift, my friend, is a nod to first-person shooter mode,
Okay.
but also love of the game. This is
Oh my God.
Masters of Doom.
Oh, my God.
The story of id Software, the story of the very legendary guys who built the entire genre, starting with Quake,
That's right.
moving to Doom, and I think there was another game in the mix as well. I don't remember what it was called, but it was there.
Wolfenstein, probably.
Wolfenstein.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, Wolfenstein. How am I forgetting Wolfenstein? I'm thinking about the other one called Rage, I believe.
Okay.
But I am just so fascinated with id Software because they were pioneers in their space.
Yeah.
They built something out of scratch. Initially, it was very low resolution. When you read this book, you're going to learn about the philosophy or lack thereof when it came to Quake. It was more about form over function. They just built these open-ended worlds, and eventually they found their ethos. They found their language. They found their voice. And what we have today in the form of Doom the Dark Ages is a far cry from what Quake was, but this book just captures that messy, organic process of showing up, piercing through the veil, creating new material. And this, sir, is for you in celebration of all of your achievements, man.
Thank you. So first of all, that little snippet, David Kushner needs to extract that from this podcast and use it in his marketing. Thank you so much. Can I flip the script and hit you right
Absolutely.
back?
Okay.
So backstory is you had invited me on. I was elated to accept. My team and I sat down on the weekend, and one of them said, you know, heads up, Hamza's very generous. He's actually got a gift for you. Would you like to reciprocate with something?
No.
And I looked at her right in the face. I said, I already did.
Oh,
I already did.
shit.
Because in addition to being collaborators,
What?
you had confided in me a little while ago that you and Bailey were expecting, and we were so excited. So regardless of whether this had ended in you giving me something, we just had to reciprocate and essentially give you something.
My guy.
Now, the deal with the card is that I forgot it, so it's not in there.
Okay.
But the gift is for you and at the same time not for you. I think you guys should open it together. We just wish you all the best.
Brother, thank you so much.
You're
Thank
so
you
welcome.
so much. Learners, I love you, but I have explicit requests from the guest himself to open it later, maybe some BTS stuff. But
Yeah.
thank you, man. You really didn't have to. And this is the part in the show where Nardwar breaks character. So yeah, man, thank you, dude. Thank you. This
You're-
is very, 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 very thoughtful.
You're
Very
so
thoughtful.
welcome. I think it also speaks to how excited I am to take this friendship into a new zone, which is parenting friends.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll get into that, but you know, it's just the next phase of life, and I'm excited to do it together.
Well, let me just ask you on air. I think that this could be useful for other parents who are also speakers or who also travel for work. How did you navigate that balance of somebody has to leave for an extended period of time, maybe 24 hours, maybe an entire week? What did that negotiation look like? And any advice for me? I'm lucky that I'm married to a fellow speaker, so
Yes.
she kind of gets it, but she's also like, hey, man, be present for your kids.
Absolutely. And we want to be there as well. I think I'll begin with prior to Addison's delivery. So my daughter, I was naive about timelines, right? So I was accepting gigs up until 2 weeks before. And it was only when I sat down, one of them was in Halifax, and the organizer actually looked me dead in the face and said, that's risky. That's risky. And I've never in my life backed out of a gig, but that was the closest I ever came. to tell you that I flew to that airport, that I was constantly refreshing my phone. So if I can suggest anything, once they're full term, which I believe is around 37 weeks, that baby can come at any time, despite what the due date may tell you. And my advice would be do the local stuff at that point.
Got you. Do the local stuff at that point. Have you mastered the art yet of like dropping into a city, same day, gig, come back same day?
That's the move now.
I have not done that yet. I'm terrified of that.
Yeah.
I think that COVID really sort of made me paranoid about this, especially with all the delays. Like Air Canada, shout out to you guys, but also not shout out to you for how you behaved during the COVID, period. Or getting random cancellations sometimes 2 hours before a flight. I'm like, guys, take it easy. Man.
Yeah.
Like my livelihood depends on this. How have you navigated the uncertainty of maybe showing up to the airport only to realize that your flight has been delayed and maybe this is going to create a cascade? Like, because I'm used to going the day before and then coming the day after.
Yeah. So my move was always fly in the night before, do a tech check in the morning or run through it, just if they like to do that. Now what I'm doing is I'm just spending a lot of time at airports. I'm still working that buffer in, but where it allows, same day. And I'm very lucky that most of the time I am booked to do the closing keynote. So I do have that bit of a buffer. But I'll be very honest with you, the thing that messes with me is not just the insane travel of going and coming back, it's when I have to move time zones. It does something to our body, in addition to the strain of air travel, that I find I'm really kind of feeling either when I'm getting on stage or when the adrenaline wears off and I'm coming off stage.
Yeah. Don't let the youthful appearance distract us from the fact that we actually are registering this time zone shift in our bodies. I know exactly what you mean. It's very interesting that you typically get closings. I usually get openings. What's up with that? Is that our content, our energy? I have no idea, but it's really fascinating that like we exist in this sort of yin yang over here. First person shooter mode, right?
I guess so, right? Well, you shared a facet of your geekiness with me. I feel like now I have to just tell you that. So I have a tracker for all of my gigs ever since I started speaking.
Okay.
And I track everything for, which talks are the ones that are getting booked to help me to forecast for the next year, as well as where am I in the schedule. And I noticed when I was starting out, I was always getting the slot right after lunch, which as we know as speakers, not always the best slot.
No. That's the graveyard slot.
Absolutely. And for the learners who maybe don't know about this, people tend to be a little bit lethargic or late coming back from lunch. You don't typically always have a full house there. And so you have to set the tone. You have to re-energize them. And what I found was that I was giving 100%, but my audience was usually 50 to 60%. And so I really wanted to graduate from what you called the graveyard zone.
I know this all too well. I've spent most of my career in that space as well. And I think that we had similar origin stories where it started with like road shows in our respective organizations. Yours was KPMG, mine was Toronto Metropolitan University. From those road shows, we did sort of like local conferences, usually panels, breakouts. And then eventually we did like national stuff, a conference here, conference there. Nothing frequent, nothing predictable, but the stages started to increase. And then one day, I was like, oh, shoot, you're actually inviting me to do a keynote. Okay, this is interesting. And it has less structure, more time, bigger room, higher stakes. I don't know how to quite transition from the world of breakout panels, but I'm doing it. And then I say to all of my mentees, as I'm sure you do as well, you do not just do one keynote. If you are a keynote speaker, if you've done it once, you are now a keynote speaker. You are no longer an aspiring keynote speaker. On that note, brother, I would love to learn what you deem to be your until one day. If we're thinking about the Joseph Campbell hero's journey, once upon a time there was Adam, and every day he did X until one day. Now, with that being said, I'm going to add an asterisk for you. We're gonna turn up the difficulty here.
Okay,
go. We're gonna move it from hurt me plenty to ultra violence, or
I'm
you
so
know what?
impressed right
Let's go legendary. Let's go legendary, right? You can't tell the Nintendo story.
Yep.
Because if you want. Hip hop reference. If you want the old shit, buy my old album. Yeah. Right. Go listen.
Yeah.
Go listen to episode 13 of Ideas into Action, I think, and Adam will tell you the story. There.
Yeah.
If you had to remove that story from the equation, what would you see as the inciting force in Adam Rodricks' journey?
You're not going to believe this. And in fact, I thought this would come up way, way later in the conversation. It was probably the first time that I ever saw Stop Managing, Start Leading.
Dude, no, really?
Because the truth of the matter is I've been chasing you since the halls of UTSC. And at that point, I wasn't even an amateur speaker, but I watched your command of craft, the mastery on stage, the poise, the confidence. And although I didn't know that was my aspiration at the time, I watched that thing front to back 2-3 times. So in those millions of views you got, like I'm a considerable amount. And I went, I want that. That was one of the early catalysts for me saying, oh, I see a future in which I'm happy and I'm working, and this is where those two things can intersect.
Dude, I did not know that.
That's it?
Genuinely did not know that. thank you. Like that is, thank you for sharing that. Really,
Yeah.
that is, wow. As a speaker to be lost for words, saying
Doesn't happen
something.
often, right?
It's bewildering because I'm at a point right now where I'm re-engaging with that talk. Did you know that I have never delivered that talk again?
Really? It was a one and done.
It was a one and done. It was not supposed to be a one and done. And I've been getting more comfortable telling this story. And I won't belabor the point over here because this is your show, sir. But I'll share it in future episodes and maybe in other works. But the day after that TEDx talk, boss called me into his office and made my life a living hell.
Mm-hmm.
Was so disappointed that I did that I didn't run it by him, that it was about leadership. He felt offended, even though the case study, the person that I was mimicking in the beginning was not him. He took it personally. It's a whole masterclass on destructive leadership, dark triad leadership, dark core leadership. Anyways, I developed PTSD from that whole experience, and that's actually how I burned out. I talked about it in the Burnout Gamble. I alluded to it, but the true story is my boss made my life a living hell. And so much of my entrepreneurial journey, I think, is a trauma response, not wanting to be in that environment again. So it's so interesting. And if I could pay the compliment back to you, I've been looking at you thinking the exact same thing. I'm like, dude, Adam has figured it out. Adam has figured out how to be an evangelist for an organization, to be in it, to be like so close to the fire, doing the work, but also is signed to a bureau, is traveling the world, is speaking, is writing, is free. Like this. That is what I want. I'm raw dogging it, man. Like straight up, I'm raw. I don't know what I'm doing, man. I'm an entrepreneur that's living in New York, sometimes in Toronto, and trying to do this speaking thing. And it is a lot, man, with twins on the way too. But you have figured out a way to balance both worlds. So thank you for sharing that. And if I could just pay that compliment back to you, J. Cole paying it back to Drake.
That's it.
I'm glad that we have this connection over here and we can both understand our worlds over there. That is fascinating, man. Whew.
You didn't know I was going to drop that.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
I specifically have never told you that, hoping, because you always said after we did Ideas into Action, we got to run it back.
Yeah.
And the conversation never took us there, so there was no need to divulge. But I always knew I wanted to tell you that before we were collaborators, you were one of my earliest inspirations.
Dude, thank you so much, man. Thank you. If you ever get a chance to receive your flowers while you can still smell them, take them, man. And I'll take them. I'm taking those flowers, brother. But this is your show, man. And now I'm backing up the Brinks truck of flowers back on you, man. So sit back, relax. I got a triplet of questions for you, man. This is to take us on the whole journey of the sage, because you are a sage. Every time you stand on stage, you are a sage on the stage. When you get off stage, you are still a sage, but you're a guide on the side. And even for me right now and for the community of learners the world over, I'd like to sort of track that journey, right? So once upon a time, there was Adam, and then there's a Nintendo story, which was amazing. And now you're sharing this journey of thought leadership, which began by seeing the talk, and I'm deeply flattered by that. Along the way, right? So here we are now recording this in 2025. What would you say was the best piece of advice that you received? And I want to be careful with how I frame this. It could be from a book. It could be from a person alive, a person dead. It could be something that you just pulled from the ether. What is the piece of advice that has catalyzed this journey that you've been on?
Comes from one of the pundits in our industry, Scott Galloway.
Ooh, Prof G.
And he said, there's a single most important decision that we make in our life. You may have heard this from him before. It is not where we work. It's not how much money we make. It's not where we send our kids to school. It's not where we live. It's not what car we drive. It is the person who we choose to spend our lives with. The spouse is the single most important decision that we will make. And as someone who has had the full spectrum of partners, from crazy supportive, do anything for you, ride or die, all the way to tug of war with your time, to the point that it's borderline sabotage, I can say that that is the single biggest factor in my success, my wife.
Can we shout them out by names, our wives?
Yes, absolutely. My wife is incredibly introverted. She works in Bay Street Finance. She's going to be mortified when she hears that I say her name on the air, but Amber deserves that because I love her with everything.
Shout out to Amber. We love you. And shout out to Bailey. We love you too. I could not agree more, man. In Prof G's infinite wisdom, the person we choose to spend our life with is the single most important decision we will make. And this has come into clear focus for me over the last, several years of our relationship, but especially post pregnancy.
Yeah.
like we're still in the process right now at the time of this recording, but just seeing this woman move through the world with such grace, poise, compassion, intelligence, I bow. I'm like, okay, you got this, mama.
Yeah.
Like, it is incredible, and I just feel so grateful, and I feel the love for Amber as well. I'd love to hear how this has maybe shaped, your work as a leader, as a speaker, as a strategist. Dive deep into this.
Yes.
How has this decision affected this cluster of expressions for you?
So I've always been ambitious, sometimes to a fault. I'll even say to a fault. And with certain relationships, what I found is that it would devolve into a tug of war. He's spending all this time on his entrepreneurial efforts, therefore it's not with me. Even though we still made that time together, they weren't happy. Or in another vein, sometimes they were happy until you were doing as well, or for lack of a better term, better than they were doing. And then you find the person and you really understand the phrase that the whole is greater than the sum of the two parts. And when I first heard that, I was like, okay, I'm a math guy. I actually think it's the opposite of this, especially if I think about something like a used car. If I break that thing down, I can sell it for more if I just have the individual parts. What do they mean the whole is greater? And then you realize what Bailey or what Amber does for us. They actually enable our success in so many ways, even if we don't realize. I don't think you know this. Not many people know, but I got cold feet maybe 2 weeks before I dropped my first book. Because I still held my position in the firm, and because I thought, man, if this thing bombs, I've lost all credibility. And so I sat on the couch and I looked at, okay, what would it take to pull this thing? Not to rewrite it, but to completely abandon the project. And my wife came, she sat next to me, she held my hands in her hands, and she just simply said, you've put so much into this, we're going to release it. There was just a quiet confidence, which is what she's actually known for. She didn't tell me that it was going to be a bestseller. She didn't even tell me that it was going to be good. She said, because you've put that effort in, the world deserves to see what that looks like. And I'm so, so glad that I listened to her that day for everything that it's become.
That's incredible, man. And first of all, in case you don't know, the book's called Trigger Fingers.
Yes.
Instant bestseller in some very competitive categories at that too.
Yeah.
Huge. I've got 2 copies at home. Thank you, brother. One of them is signed. One of them I have to get signed. Fascinating story, and I think that you're going to find a lot of parallels with Master of Doom as well, because there were many points in the id Software, I call them ID Software, id Software evolution, where they nearly pulled the plug on projects, and they're notoriously late for initial versions of Doom, but the sort of like the saying that they used was "Let there be Doom." Yeah. Let there be doom. Let there be doom. And so, like, no matter what, the sunk cost fallacy is what I called it before this. Like, we invested all this time, energy, attention, money into this. We're going to release it. But I want to flip that. I think in Amber's infinite wisdom, we're going to call it quiet confidence.
Yeah.
It's not a sunk cost fallacy. Maybe that's playing into it at a psychological level, but it's like, I know this is good. This has to be in the world. And nothing is more powerful, to quote Victor Hugo, than an idea whose time has come.
That's it.
And my brother, your idea has come, man. Telling your story, owning your narrative, building your brand, communicating on behalf of an organization in a way that's personally aligned with you. I see what you're doing, man. And you're doing it for one of Canada's top employers. You're doing it for one of the most, I think one of the most decorated companies in the country, but also in the world too, consistently ranked as the best place to work. That is amazing. And you're able to do that from a place of power, where you're able to manage a senior director, if not executive level responsibility, but also have the freedom to be your own brand. I think a lot of people just know Adam, but they don't also know that you're doing this whole other thing, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but actually, like, that's selling it short. It's probably always on.
That's right. That's the nature of social media. That's what we signed up for, right? And I'm so glad that I found a team that believed that personal branding doesn't just begin at 9 and end at 5. If you want to be a giant of industry, that's a full-time job, and you have to give yourself to that. And that's what we do. I mean, we're hustlers, right? When we go to our hip hop influences, for example, most of the lyrics that you and I pull out are about those guys that go the extra mile, right? Those ones that just hit us in the core. And I know we probably have a few common songs on our pregame playlist before we take stage. Yeah. That those are the words that we want to hear before we address 1,000 people. So that was me, and I'm so glad that I found the company that leaned into that as opposed to try to suppress that.
Okay, and you know what? Now I feel I have to go a little bit off script. I need to know if I'm going to guess a song on your playlist, then guess a song on mine. Okay. All right, let's just see if we get this right.
Okay. Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
If I had to guess, you probably have a healthy serving of Drake.
I have a very healthy serving of Drake.
Okay. And I think you probably go with like braggadocious Drake. You go with like bravado Drake. You go with like Drake, like stadium status type drink.
Yep.
So I think I'm gonna go get two choices here. I think you do Back Outside Boys
Okay.
with 21 Savage,
Yep.
or Tuscan Leather.
Okay.
I'm just putting that out there.
Okay.
Am I in the ballpark?
You're in the ballpark there.
But wrong on both counts?
I'm so glad. I was like, am I this predictable? No. Is he going to nail it? So trophies.
Oh, dude, that was my third choice.
Trophies has been in the few occasions where someone said, would you like a walkout song? That's what I've chosen.
Dun, 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 dun,
It's so powerful. It just gets me to where I know I need to be in order to address a room full of executives. So I love trophies. Now let me flip this on you.
Okay.
I know there's going to be some hove, but I feel like because we were just talking about yay, and again, it's like
no
it's
yay, man.
Okay.
Yay's not okay.
Okay. I go back to I'm picturing, because I know you've seen this too, the first time Timbaland ever showed the beats to Dirt Off Your Shoulder to Jay, and Jay just went into this trance-like state. I feel like Dirt Off Your Shoulder, like from the old catalog, would be on there.
It may surprise you to know, no Jay.
Really?
Yeah. As Jay would say, we off that.
Really?
Yeah, I still have respect, but from a distance. But I think my energy has shifted. For
Okay.
Sure. I think I'm looking for. I'll give you another hint. Maybe we'll give you one more guess. I'm a lot more crooners these days.
Okay.
Still hip hop.
Okay.
Hip hop, but a lot more crooners.
Ooh, okay. Ooh, that's tough. I'm trying to think.
Because I'm trying to be lighter on stage. I'm trying to float.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be much more elegant and just have ease on stage.
So are you saying that these aren't absolute club bangers that you're listening to before you step out?
I don't want to give you too many hints. I can give you one lifeline.
Yeah.
It's still in the genre of hip hop, but it's more on the melodic side.
I got to go Frank Ocean something.
Oh, you're in the ballpark.
I honestly don't know.
Okay, a lot of Weekend these days.
Oh my gosh. A fellow
yeah.
six. Yeah, so I have The Hills on mine, for example.
Okay.
That song just pumps, but everything is high tempo because I'm not trying to walk out on stage. I'm trying to literally burst onto that stage, grab attention. I think the latest stats came out and they said most people are making a decision within 7 seconds of seeing a speaker on stage as to whether it's time to check their phone or not.
Dude, that is surreal that you say that. And you know what? We just have to lean in. Now we're already here.
Yeah.
We're on a side quest now.
Yeah.
We're on a side quest. We're going to come back to the main quest later.
Yeah.
Let's talk shop a little bit over here because I think about this all the time too. What am I going to do with the first 7 seconds? I'm aware of that too.
Yeah.
And I've actually scrapped my typical openings and now I do like a cold open. So now how I start is like I stand in place. I do the Michael Jackson Super Bowl. I just stand there and I don't say anything for 7 seconds.
What a reference.
I know. I'm just there. All right. 7 seconds. At the 7 second mark, I say, somewhere right now. Opening line. And low baritone. And then I tell like a short story. And after I finish that short story, then I start to move. Then it starts to go up. And so far, it's working really well. How are you using the first 7 seconds of your airspace?
So I decided it needed an overhaul. I was doing the generic, you got to ask a question. Maybe you want to start with a thought-provoking. And
the
I was
speaker
like,
thing.
Exactly, with the
Yeah.
speaker thing. And I was like, well, if the last three guys did that, I'm not doing that. So in 2021, I started to do open mic comedy.
Dude, crowd work?
Crowd work. And now, more often than not,
Yeah.
I'm making a decision in the moment, either by the way I was introduced or from sometimes if there was a funny moment earlier in the agenda, to reference that and open there. Because I find if I can break off a laugh in those first 7 seconds, or even to 15 seconds, if there's a bit of a preamble, I've got the room. Because anybody who's not paying attention looks around as to, what did I just miss?
That is brilliant, man. I had the chance to attend CinemaCon, and I sincerely hope you get an opportunity to keynote that someday. I was in the keynote, I was in the breakout, but it felt like a keynote. It was so good, and I got to attend like some of their big sessions where they bring in Universal and whatnot too, and all their reps come out. The person who really just commanded the audience was none other than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Rocky. And this guy comes out and does crowd work like I've never seen. Because we know the speaker things. Like we know where the notes are. We can see the teleprompters. This guy never read off the teleprompter once. Everybody else was scripted to a T, including like in brackets, laugh now, pause here. Dude, Rocky comes out. Rocky's doing crowd work.
Unreal.
He's remembering what people said before him. He's looking at people in the audience, not planned, because I'm like, I was with that guy outside. So you did not meet this guy. You're talking about his shirt and stuff too. Like he was just engaged. And this goes with what our previous guest said. Like her sage advice was, one of them was, be where you are.
I love that.
She was just so present. And in order to do crowd work, you just have to be where you are. And so you have achieved a level of mastery of this. If you're opening with this, amazing. I use crowd work, I would say about 10 minutes in, and I call it the recalibration.
Okay.
So in case it's a cold room, post interaction, so cold open, interaction, and the interaction lets me breathe and be like, okay, how am I doing so far? Okay, it's a little cold. Now do some crowd work. But starting with crowd work, That's why you're the Drake, dude.
It's tough. It's tough. And not to say I've never bombed. I've bombed more at weddings than I have actually on stage as a keynote, because I find that what you do, especially if it's some sort of corporate gig or say a conference, you're circumventing expectations by doing a bit of comedy. They're not expecting that at all. And so there's even just like a genuine merriment by being perplexed, being, oh my goodness, I was not expecting to laugh, heartily here. So I love it when it works. And boy, those are the longest 3 seconds when it doesn't.
Oh, buddy, I know. I had one earlier this week. I said the joke with my chest, crickets, and I'm like, oh no, did I read the room wrong over here? But it was net positive by the end. And now I joke, and I would just say that sounded funnier in my head. And when I say that, that's like the salvage moment where I get some pity laughs, and I get back on it. Actually, are you familiar with Ron Tite? Do you know Ron Tite?
I do. I've seen his new book, but I've not yet read it.
This is how I know you're a student of the game, man.
Yeah.
Like keep tabs, right?
You have to.
You're the owl. You're just there. You're perched up and you're just watching.
Always.
The sixth god is always watching. Man.
Always.
So Ron Tite, I had the chance to see him do a presentation about speaking. And he was like, one of the best things you can do for an audience is make them laugh, which is one of the best pieces of sage advice that I received from one of my agents, Bryce. Shout out to Bryce, Speaker Spotlight. He said, one of the best things you can do for your audience is make them laugh. And gradually, over the last 4 years, my keynotes have become stand-up routines that happen to hide the broccoli and the potatoes.
Yeah.
That's what they are. But then Ron took it to another level, because I was like, I guess I'm making people laugh for the sake of getting their energy up, but like, what am I really doing here? And then Ron put it in perspective. He said, look, you're not competing with the keynote speakers that are on the agenda. You're not competing with the opening or the closing. You're actually competing with the VP of sales who's going to go up after you, who's going to read off the teleprompter, who's going to stand in place and make like one dry joke that people are going to chuckle at, but be on their phones with. So give people permission to laugh in public. And I was like,
oh yeah, mic drop
shit
moments.
right there.
That's
man.
it. That resonates with me, right? That's why I do this. That's why I want to be up there. That's fantastic.
And what's so great about the configuration that you've created for yourself is you are in-house.
Yes.
So like KPMG is able to access you as a speaker.
Yes.
And it's already bundled into their relationship with you. Like, I'm very lucky. And actually, I didn't even tell you about this. I actually have a gig with KPMG coming up, I think in October, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll be there.
I would love for you to be there, and then for you to provide some notes to me after.
Oh my goodness.
That would be fantastic.
What a full circle moment for me that will be. That's fantastic. I mean, I've recommended you to a number of organizations over the years, including my own. And although I don't know if that's where this came through the grapevine, I think that's one of the coolest things about not just being friends, but being peers in this industry is that we can toss. I remember when you were first moving to New York and people were coming to you, you were just like, yeah, Adam's great. Adam's great. And I can never thank you for that, because lip service is fantastic, but when you say I'm not available, but this person is a suitable replacement, that just hits me right in the heart, man.
There are only 4 speakers that I recommend, and you are one of them. Like, and the other one's my wife, and I think you know the 2 others, but maybe we can talk about it later. But like, you're the only speakers when I'm like, dude, you get Adam, you get Bailey, you get these other 2, like, it's gonna be great. Like, at the very least, it's gonna be good.
Oh yeah.
And that's another piece of advice that I got from another sage in my life, Mark Bowden, the body language coach. I went to him and I'm like, man, I struggle with imposter syndrome. Like, I sometimes feel like I open very well and then I lose energy midway and then I don't know if I closed well. And he's like, Hamza, just relax. From the audience perspective, they want you to succeed. And at the very least, it's going to be good. And once I started changing my mind about that, I'm like, oh, wow. So yeah, as a keynote speaker, we have a gift. We have an ability to command an audience, to speak in a way that's interesting and compelling. So let's not sell ourselves short.
Yeah.
We've figured out a craft over here. We are athletes in this world. We're not basketball players necessarily. We're athletes. You can drop us into any discipline. You can take any topic. I can give you the topic. Hey, Adam, craft a keynote about writing a book.
Yeah.
You'd be able to bang that out.
Yeah.
And it would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Nobody would know that that's not the thing that you speak about, but now it's the thing you speak about.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. You mentioned body language. We as keynote speakers, we often see a lot of closed body language, right? We are staring at a sea of people. They're staring at us. And I'll never forget one of the formative moments for me when I was an early speaker, still doing free talks in the basement of Toronto Public Libraries. I had somebody who closed their eyes and then slumped.
No.
But the slump wasn't a normal slump, because I know what a slump looks like when I'm so boring that someone falls asleep, because I just look at my wife, right? But this was somebody who, it looked like they were ill. And I had this moment, right, where do I interrupt myself on stage where everybody else is looking at me, or do I simply persist and just hope everything's okay? And I just felt it in here. And I stopped mid-sentence and I said, can we get some assistance over here? We want to check on someone. Lo and behold, the person had a stroke.
Dude, wow, amazing. Talk about be where you are. Talk about having presence. I'm so glad you did that. I'm like, is this going to go the way of Billie Eilish or Travis Scott?
Right. Yeah.
And you did
Nobody
the
wants to
Billie
be
Eilish.
Travis there. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Shout out to you. That is incredible, man. You're going to make me now think very differently about when I see the occasional yawn.
Oh,
When I notice the yawn, I'm like, oh no. Now
Yeah.
I just dig in. Now I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, when I see the yawn, I actually change levels using the
Yeah.
MMA reference. I actually like bend my knees a little bit and keep the audience on their toes. And like, oh, the other thing too is like hands above shoulders.
okay.
Once you do that, the energy in the room just changes. People
Oh.
are like, oh wow, he's taking up space over here. So very cool, man. This has now turned into like Adam and Hamza speaking about speaking,
Yeah, we're just geeking.
which is great. And there's a lot to geek about, but I want to bring it back to the wisdom that you've accumulated over your life. And of course, many more side quests will happen. These are great for prestige. This is great for leveling up and,
Yeah.
getting the little chests here and there and discovering the loot caves. But let's go back to this next question in the Core Advice trilogy about wisdom that now feels right to you. It's intuitive. You understand it, but it hasn't quite settled yet.
Yeah.
What is that piece of wisdom for you right now?
So this is where I was planning to hit you with the fact that I had been chasing you since the halls of UTSC.
Okay.
The reason that I think I still wrestle with this is because although I've overcome that with you, I still do it with a lot of other people. So the advice that I'm wrestling with is the idea that we don't need to compete, we can collaborate.
Boom.
Right. And when I was chasing you, I remember this. I watched the first head. I was completely enthralled. I then gorged myself on everything that you had ever done and everything I could find on Google.
Thank you, bro.
And in that moment, I felt like shit. And I think for a lot of people, when you compare someone's entire body of work to where you are right in that moment, you're going to have a bad time. And that's certainly what I did. I then took a few months to work on myself, maybe even try to emulate your craft a little bit. Finally, I served myself a generous helping of humble pie, and I reached out. And it was amazing. At the time you were teaching at TMU, you invited me into your class. We became collaborators
Yeah,
then.
man. Yeah.
And now I look at, where we've been able to toss gigs back and forth, and we can support each other in so many different ways, even as we're on a parenting journey. It's just been amazing. At the same time, and I don't know if you saw this with Leadership Reinvented, but when you get that reception, we should be happy. But for me, I was still looking at everybody who was above me in the charts.
Right.
I was not fulfilled in that moment. And so I actually squandered a moment that should have been fantastic for me because I was looking at who had done it better. So I still struggle with that advice of, can I potentially collaborate, learn from those other authors as opposed to competing? I've allowed it to rob my joy more than I care to admit. And I keep looking at my neighbor's backyard. Meanwhile, I'm growing some beautiful flowers in my own yard.
Dude, wow. That is very vulnerable of you to share, man. That is the duality of being an author that's competitive, but also oriented towards collaboration. First of all, man, I'm just so glad that you reached out, man. And like, I'm very shy, socially awkward, introverted. I am perpetually walking through life. I'm walking through life perpetually feeling like I'm letting everybody down. So when I hear that compliment, I'm like, oh man, I must be doing something right. If like, a peer like Adam Rodricks is looking to me for sage advice. And so thank you for validating that and like helping me to shake up out of my, for lack of a better word, like stuckness, if that's even a thing. But secondly, like that bittersweet feeling of publishing and reveling as briefly as you are in the victory, but also feeling like, damn, like I'm not number one though.
Yeah.
And like, now I'm falling on the charts over here, and it just becomes overwhelming. Do you remember who was in your draft class, for lack of a better word, for when you published that book?
Yeah, so there was an Elon Musk book that came out, a biography that came out that just destroyed all business charts that same week.
Yeah.
And Shoe Dog was still crushing it on the charts. And so in a lot of categories, I ended up directly competing and got absolutely trounced. Fantastic book. Everybody should read it, especially if you're a Nike fan. But I don't know why I felt the need to compare myself as a first-time author. And I think this is true for a lot of people, probably a lot of your learners, that we compare our current state to somebody else's entire body of work, and that just robs us of joy.
It really does, man. It really does. And I remember that as well. I was competing with Shoe Dog, so Shoe Dog outlasted me, and I think you published shortly after I did. But there he was, still doing the same thing, doing the damn thing, Phil Knight. And I guess to a certain extent doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember that. And I remember not feeling great about the launch of Leadership Reinvented, especially because it happened in the middle of the pandemic. I never got to do a party, man. I never got to do a party, and like that really bummed me out. And the book has taken on a life of its own. Like it now lives in spaces that normally would not book me. Like it's being used for, police captains tests. It's being used in the military. It's being used in departments of, the U.S. government, for instance, that might not be interested in hiring me to speak. And I'm like, that's pretty cool, man. You keep that, have fun. Whenever I see it in the wild, I'm like, my little baby grew
Yeah.
up, it's doing its own thing. Do you still have those moments right now with trigger fingers? Do that you ever, see something online and you're like, oh wow, like I wrote that.
Yeah. One of the coolest things about Gen Z is that they take pictures and share them.
Yeah.
And so it happens often when I'm having a rough day that I'll get an Instagram alert when I open it up and I say, what is this? And it's somebody who's tagged me in the fact that they're reading the book on a plane.
Wow.
Right.
Best.
And you just think about, wow, I wonder if they liked it. I wonder where they're going. I wonder if this will impact anything for the rest of their day, maybe their week. Do I dare to say their career? Those are just moments that make you want to write again and write better and just continue to help the world if you have helped the world at all.
Amen, man. How do you reconcile the second part of that unsettled wisdom, which is don't compete, collaborate? But in some domains, competition is inevitable.
Yeah. And I would say I'm competitive to a fault. That's probably one of my biggest weaknesses. I take it in step, I learn from it. And I think our relationship is probably one of the greatest examples of what can happen if you just simply have a mindset shift, right? The idea that, okay, let me just eat this piece of humble pie and reach out. What's the worst that can happen? Hamza says no. Hamza sees you as a direct threat. That actually tells me that I'm doing something right if he were to treat me as my equal. And I was so lucky that you did acknowledge me as an equal, but on different terms. And so those are the anecdotes that I go back to every time I start to compete somewhat unnecessarily with somebody. I need to change the way that I'm approaching this, and perhaps I'll have somebody else in my corner by the end of it.
I think it's entirely possible that you and I have lost gigs to each other. I don't know this, but I have to believe that it's true because I know from talking to Sean Kanungo. Shout out to Sean, by the way, right? Sean, I owe you a text, man. I'm really sorry, bro. Just a little bit overwhelmed right now. But Sean has been just so generous with insight, with perspective, calls, leaves voice notes, answers right away. I feel really guilty that I haven't responded to Sean. But again, Sean, man, my bad, bro. I'm just dealing with a lot right now. And what Sean and I acknowledged is that anytime he does a gig, I benefit from it. Anytime he does a gig, other way around, anytime I do a gig, he benefits from it too because we're opening the door for each other. We're extending the runway of what's possible. And so, dude, if I have ever lost a gig to you, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Because I know you knocked it out of the park and you changed that audience's paradigm. They're like, that guy with all of his intersectionality can hang.
Likewise, brother.
And I try to do the same thing too. I try to represent, I try to make it possible for us to do this work. And it's net positive, man. I feel like we're in a secret club here, like the Avengers. We don't have any cards, we don't have any rings, but like it's an understanding that what we're doing over here is ultimately trying to help people thrive in organizations.
It's beautiful.
Individually and collectively. And even if they only remember one thing, even if they're like, they don't know if they saw Adam, Hamza, or Sean.
Yeah.
But they just remember there was like a brown guy with a beard, salt and pepper over there. And he made me feel a certain way, to paraphrase Maya Angelou. Yeah. That's more than enough, man.
That's it. Yeah, they're never going to remember what we said. They're going to remember how we made them feel, right? And that's why I used to be very, very stat heavy in a lot of my presentations. And I think when I finally decided I wanted to be a better storyteller, this really went to the next level for me.
Very interesting. And you are a gifted storyteller.
Thanks,
I have
bro.
read Trigger Fingers. I've read it twice. I understand there's another book in the works right now.
There is. This one I'm so excited for. This is not about personal anecdotes from my career. This is based on the feedback that I got from some senior leaders in Canada who basically read those and said, you wrote a book on personal branding by telling 18 self-deprecating stories? I said, I did. And that's really funny. I'm here right now, but a lot of people don't know that I cheated in high school math, almost got expelled.
Wow.
And after a few of these started to come to me, I said, would you ever go on record with that? And they said, I'll tell a version of it. And so the second book is about failure. Not my failure, because I think that was largely covered in the first book. The second book is about failure as a necessary stepping stone to success. And those stories are coming from some of Canada's top CEOs, professional athletes. Yes, I got a couple ball players just for you in there. I can't tell you who, but I'm so excited for you to read it. So excited for you to read it. Absolutely. I'll tease it after, maybe in the behind the scenes. And the idea here is just that, we look at someone's end state and we revere them, not understanding what happens when we turn off the lights and they go home. Publicly, we reward these figures, but in private, they are practicing. They are in the kitchen, and we don't see all of that. We only see the end goal.
You've raised a very interesting tension over here between visibility and vulnerability. How do you manage that tension personally? Because part of your job at KPMG and as a speaker, as a public figure, requires you being out there, being visible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's also these stories like you shared of the CEO admitting that they used to cheat.
Yeah.
And that's things that can be harmful to their brand, or maybe it can be re-traumatizing. A lot of my personal stories, it cause a lot of pain for me.
Yeah.
How do you balance that? What would be your sage advice for somebody who wants to balance being visible, but also is not feeling vulnerable to show up as their full self.
This is funny. This is directly pulling from my iMessage with a fellow speaker named Sarah Baldeo. I think you may know
Shout out to Sarah Baldeo.
Shout out to Sarah. And Sarah was saying, Adam, we are both pretty vulnerable on stage, but we have to draw a line. There are certain stories that are simply for us in our offline circles, maybe even just for ourselves. And once we define what that is, we're going to have a much better time in terms of just, okay, I can be vulnerable, but within these parameters. And I've really taken that page out of her book and said, you know what, some things are just for me. But like the Nintendo story, which still makes me feel some type of ways. It was a cease and desist at the end of the day. Like, I thought my career was over before that thing even started. I'm okay telling that story now, only because of what it led to in terms of my career. But there are other things that are just for me, and that's where I draw my lines with vulnerability.
Do you ever think you'll cross the chasm and tell those stories?
So I wrote those stories. I broke those lines for the first book, and I'm so glad they didn't fit thematically and they got cut. Because at the time, I just felt I needed to get this out.
Ah, okay. You were processing.
It was therapeutic.
Yeah. It usually is. Do you feel like maybe those stories might find their way back into another project or maybe on stage someday?
I think at this point, it would actually be a family decision because they are incredibly personal ones. And so I would have to talk to my wife, maybe even my daughter, if she's old enough to react at that point, and determine as a family whether those ever see the light of day.
I'd love to offer a call to adventure if we're thinking about the hero's journey here. One of the best things that I did for my speaking was just, for lack of a better phrase, bleed on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks, man. I'm not going to lie. Like, when I tell the stories that I'm telling on stage now, and I haven't told all of them, just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more where they came from, but it's going to take some time. I got to move nice and slow because I'm trying to have longevity in here.
Yeah.
This is like me playing like Derrick Rose,
That's right.
just twirling, jumping, dunking, and then landing on my ankle all
That's
the time.
just it. Yeah, the ACL is going to go if you just blow. Yeah.
That's it. And so, like, I did a version of that story this past Monday. I'm not physically ready to do it again yet.
That's interesting.
I'm doing it tomorrow, though, and I'm going to do it with much more gravity, but then, like, I have to pause again until next Friday. But here's the thing, though. I can tell you that there's a marked difference in the audience reaction.
Okay.
Once I started telling those stories in a way that fit, that connected to their context, because they're deeply personal stories, but you find the universal thread in them. They're ultimately stories of triumph, right? Once upon a time there was, every day until, sink into the pit of despair. How did you emerge from that? And I know you have that story.
Yeah, thank you for that.
I've read them in Trigger Fingers, and I know that I'm like, ooh, if we just like tug at these a little bit more, Adam's gonna tell us some shit. Yeah,
absolutely, right. And they're in there too. And I want to unpack what you said a little bit because it sounds like they still affect you as you deliver these stories on stage in that moment.
Yeah,
I'm not ready for that.
Okay, man, this is perfect because like there was 2 books I was gonna get for you. You know what? I'm gonna mail you the other book. Masters of Doom is the one that was gonna like set up the conversation and be a clever callback to, again, our last conversation, but first person shooter mode, et cetera, et cetera. But the other book was gonna be called Transformational Speaking by Gail Larson.
Okay.
This is a book that I've only recommended 2 other times. It is the book that I think that was a before and after book for me. It goes in that category. There's my speaking before, there's my speaking after. And in there, the key concept, there's 2. One is original medicine, one is home zone. I'll tell you about original medicine. Original medicine is like the thing that is uniquely yours, that no one can duplicate. I can imitate your original medicine, but it's still going to be Hamza doing a version of Adam.
Okay.
And that thing, for better or for worse, is the stories.
Okay.
And once I figured that out, once I'm like, okay, so yeah, my ideas, everybody's talking about human-centric leadership, reinventing leadership, managing versus leading. There's literally somebody, I'm not going to put her on blast, but like using like verbatim phrases that I use. And I'm like, this is too much, but all good. Either way, when I get on stage, when she gets on stage, the difference is like, I'm willing to go there.
That's it.
I'm willing to go there. I'm willing to like go all the way and relive that memory.
Yeah.
You watch The Prestige?
I love so I will geek out on Nolan all day.
Dude, we don't have enough time for this.
I know.
Speaking of time, right? Had I known you were a Nolan fan, I maybe would have switched the order of the book. So I actually gave a copy of The Prestige to one of our previous guests, who the listeners know by now, Janani Jayanthi-Kumar.
Yeah.
For reasons that are very different than this. But The Prestige is interesting because there's 2 ways that you can do the trick. There's one where you can actually have your brother and deceive everybody, or you can be so committed to it that you actually die every night.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, by the way. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's been 15 years.
Yeah, I know. There's got to be, Dumbledore got killed as Snape. Yeah, anyway.
but like for Angier to take it away from Borden, or other way around, Angier's
Is
Wolverine?
Yeah, I believe so.
Sorry, Angier's Wolverine. For Angier to steal the thunder away, no pun intended, from Borden, he actually has to die on stage.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, okay. all right, there's a way to do this, and I'm going to do it. And I did it for the first time. And dude, if it hasn't happened for you yet, I hope it will. But like, don't chase it. But the byproduct of like truly summoning your original medicine will be the elusive standingo.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I know I will draw back on this conversation as I have on so many other ones that we've had, as I start to go there, to push myself as a speaker, to lean into other thematics that I've just never explored before. And, storytelling, comedy, these are the things that I've done so far and I'm really, really enjoying. But I know, as you said, I hope I'm still on the ascent. Like, I hope that this is us just beginning. And so that means that I need to broaden the craft. I need to have a few more tricks in my repertoire.
Oh, dude, you have achieved unk wisdom, but rookie energy, man. I'm telling you, you're there, man. And like the stories that there's just been bangerangs over here, right? The single most important decision you can make is to spend your life with the person or the person that you choose to spend your life with, right?
I think so.
I'm sure there's a plethora of stories in there about navigating a relationship, about making the right decision, about opening up and being vulnerability. And then don't compete, collaborate. Very rarely do people speak about it with as much vulnerability as you do. Even I don't speak about that too. Of course I feel competitive. Of course, like even in this moment, I'm like, damn, man, like I got to step my game up, but I don't feel the transparency. I haven't at least maximized the transparency to be able to speak about it the way that you are. But like, that's another story that you can tell as well. And I think that you would normalize that feeling for a lot of people, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I did go back and forth. I read the questions that you wanted me to ponder on. And even as recently as walking over here, I was like, it's a leap, right? That's to tell him to his face and to tell all of his learners at the same time. That's a leap, but you deserve that. And I think with Sage Advice, that's what you've tried to cultivate here, a safe space to say the things that actually made a difference in your life.
Well, brother, on that note, thank you. I will receive that. I would like to sort of like take a hard left over here.
Okay.
We're now approaching, the maw, right? This is the maw. Some of the worst skulls have been activated, right? We're driving the warthog out. I'm taking all the way back to
Hey, that's Halo 3. Like that's the end of it. I'm so impressed that you know all of these references.
Oh, of course, man. I'm so glad that you can pick up what I'm putting down over here. Yeah. And the respawn point is it's non-existent here.
Yeah.
You got to leave it on the table here. You have to just gift Amber. You have to give your child, posterity, the advice that you want engraved on your tombstone.
Yeah.
What would it be, man?
There's this finality to this specific type of advice, and I thought long and hard on this one specifically. It brought me back to the single greatest trauma in my life, which was also the ending of a relationship, and my response to it, which was, I got to blow it up. I got to come back better than ever, right? I got to be Derrick Rose after he rehabs it and tries to win another MVP. And so I literally changed everything in my life. I moved from town of Ajax down to Yorkville. I started working out 7 times a week. I went to speed dating. I started doing yoga. I was traveling nonstop because I thought that would be fulfillment. And I'm rattling this off, not just to you, but I'm rattling it off every week in therapy as I'm trying to recover. And I'm using it as a list of things that I've done to attest to how much better I'm getting. And my therapist named Susan, rest in peace, Susan, but Susan is sitting there and she's listening to me and she says, that's fantastic, Adam. You've done all of this to cope, but I'm going to ask you what you've done to heal. And I said, well, what do you mean? I've just told you this fantastic list of how I'm using my time, how I'm on the path to success. What do you mean I'm not healing? And she said the 5 words that changed my life. I could put this on a tombstone. To heal, you got to feel. To heal, you got to feel. And you need to sit with your emotions. From that day on, the way that I process any type of negative emotions has changed. It is uncomfortable as hell, but you got to feel if you're going to move forward and potentially grow. And so I've never forgotten that. I've never forgotten Susan. Susan, wherever you are, I really think fondly of our time together. And hopefully I can immortalize your words through Sage Advice.
Man, R.I.P. Susan. That was like a gut punch, man. That was, you spoke to me, bro. You spoke to me. I'm not allowing myself to sit in the shit. So thank you for appearing as the sage in my story at the right time. In many ways, elaborate on this. Like, for people like myself who hear this and maybe it's registering it as the second category of wisdom, which is the wrestling wisdom.
Yeah.
It's intuitive. I get it. But my ego's like, nah, bruh. Don't do it, man.
Yeah.
Don't do it. It'll be a lot more fun if you just play action sack instead
That's it,
instead of
right?
shoddy snipers.
That's
You're
it.
asking me to play shoddy snipers here. and
Yeah.
I'm not trying to do that right now.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do I got to do to feel so that I can heal?
Like a video game playlist that houses some of the best players on it, we need to go there if we're going to ever get better, right? We can do the thing that gives us the immediate gratification or externally looks great, like they're doing well, but that's not going to lead to personal growth. And I learned that the hard way. You know, I learned it on a couch where I wasn't even making eye contact with the woman, but I thought I was speaking from my soul, but instead I was speaking from a checklist. And so when she reframed what healing looked like for me, it changed my life, because now anytime I'm met with any type of adversity, I sit with the feelings, and it's uncomfortable, man. It sucks. It really does. But I think the way that I've been able to process has been for the better.
And without asking you to re-traumatize yourself, only if you're comfortable,
Yeah.
man, like take us back to the moment where the relationship ended, because
Yeah.
this was before the wisdom appeared in your life. Maybe it was there. Maybe you've experienced the feeling of to heal, you got to feel. But, you know, when Susan put it in perspective for you, that's when it crystallized. But like the breakup happens,
Yeah.
and you're feeling pain.
Yeah.
What's your instinct? What does a past version of Adam do?
Yeah. So rough breakup, cause of trauma. The initial thought is, I got to come back better than ever. How do I do that? Well, I do everything, right? I do everything. I hit the gym, as a lot of people will do in certain situations. And then I'm going to just seize life, carpe diem. I will make sure that I put myself in all of these crazy scenarios, many of them visible at the time, right? Just because that's what I thought I needed to do. But I never sat with it. I would actually say for probably 4 months when I was at my lowest, I never sat with those feelings at home, even though I just had my first place solo. Never just let the dust settle and just sit there in those feelings. And that was to my detriment until finally a professional intervened and said, hey, listen, to heal, you have got to feel.
Do you now, like when it comes to feeling, how do you capture those feelings? Do you write? Do you meditate?
Yeah.
Therapy? What is the regimen, for lack of a better word, look like?
Still love therapy for everybody, you know. I run with my angry playlist, not my pump up playlist, my angry playlist. And of course I write. And I've noticed how my writing has shifted based on my headspace. And I'm so excited for you, because I actually think one of the biggest shifts in my writing style was the birth of my first child. Yeah. And I can't wait to compare notes on this and see if it has a similar effect for you.
I got a question for you on that, but let me just first start by saying, like, thank you for sharing publicly that you're on a therapy journey.
Yeah.
I think I can count on three fingers, just three people in my life, boys that I know, who also happen to be brown, who also happen to have a Scarborough connection, who have spoken about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know if it's taboo in your world.
Oh, yeah. Culturally, I think
Culturally,
you know, right?
yeah,
We have similar upbringings. There were friends and family members when I first shared that I was going to do this, and they kind of just went, right? Like, is that really necessary? And I felt that it was necessary. I felt that I couldn't do this by myself, and I'm so glad I reached out when I did.
I'm so glad that you did as well. You know, when I did it, and I kind of alluded it to my mom, I had a bit of a Sopranos Livia reaction.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Pop, talking about me. And I'm like, yeah, but no, like it's you're you're an incidental character in the story here. Like I'm still the protagonist here, to borrow from Tenet. And I'm just so glad you're admitting that, like, and sharing that, and sharing it in a way that, you know, I didn't sense even a modicum of shame.
No, it was like,
this is who I am.
Yeah, it's like what I had for lunch. You know, this is a part of my journey, and to suppress that would to not be doing right by your learners, right? I'm here to bear all. You were very clear about what we were going to do here, and it just felt like for me, this was going to be the right mechanism through which I shared some things I had never shared before. I
appreciate that, brother. I really do. And it's so clear to me in the years that I've known you, more than a decade now, that you know, you have unpacked and you have repacked lighter.
Yeah.
And you're moving through the world with ease, with grace, with confidence. I mean, you're on a whole other level right now, man. I can feel it. I can feel electricity in this room right now. I'm just so proud of you, man. You know, as you look to the future, and you know, we got to get you out of here soon because you got a keynote, dude. Talk about raw dogging it. I would never do a podcast and keynote the same day. My keynote days are just like the only thing that I do is gym keynote. That's it. So shout out to you, man. I got to ask you for some advice on that. And then I want to come back to the question of how my writing is going to change post-baby.
Yeah.
What is some advice that is in the distant future that is materializing, right? This is an unscripted question. The guests don't know that I'm going to ask this, but this was inspired by my wife, the person that I made the best decision to spend the rest of my life with. She said, there's a fourth type of wisdom, which is emerging wisdom. It's there. It's flickering in the cosmos. And it's interesting to you. And you're like, there's something here. I don't know what it is, but I'm moving in that direction.
Yeah.
What's that for you right now?
In my short life so far, I have been hyper fixated on the destination. So much so that I would say for the vast majority of it, I have not taken the time to enjoy the journey. For the first time, I'm enjoying the journey. And I hope that when we revisit this in later seasons, later discussions, later phone calls, later messages, I can tell you that by virtue of slowing down, I'm enjoying life even more than I thought was possible.
Which seems counterintuitive to a recovering overachiever.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't got an objective? Just key results?
Yeah. It's scary, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I've loved probably the most about being a father, that I wake up with her on weekends. Obviously, I'm working during the week to give my wife a bit of a break. And when you're with these children on weekends, especially the small ones, you just don't move the same way you do when you're hustle and bustle. You are there at their pace, tending to their needs. And I got to say, they're my favorite 2 days of the week, just because it really helps me to reorient what's important. It focuses me on the moment for the first time. And I often think back on my week and going, God, I rushed through that, but was it necessary? Like for what? Right. And then you just look at this kid who's twisting a toy and trying to understand what different textures do in her hand. And you just take that in, you go, life is a beautiful thing. And I want to be along for the journey as much as that destination at the end.
Oh my goodness. This kid is going to grow up in a world where they get your sage advice, where they get Amber's sage advice, and you're providing an environment for them to thrive. And I can only imagine what a conversation between, your kids and my kids would be like in the future with us as parents. Yeah. And, I have no expectation of it other than be free, be content.
Yeah.
Do with your time what you will. Just, don't be a dick.
Yeah. It's not that hard, right? Just don't be a dick. Yeah.
Beautiful, man. And how has having a baby changed your writing? This is fascinating.
Yeah, I think before I used to write with a very, very prescribed structure. And with Addison, there's just been an element of free flow, because I feel like for the first time, I'm not actually writing for any particular audience. I'm in many cases now, one of the things I started doing when my wife told me she was pregnant was I started a baby journal, because I have a horrible memory, but I knew that there were all of these little milestones either during her pregnancy or after delivery. And every month I have a reminder on my phone, stop what I'm doing, just free flow write. And I have to say, as much as I am actively working on a second book, I love working on this baby journal more. And it's crazy. You talk about small things like the first time a tooth popped, to larger things like a first birthday and what that means and the type of cake that they had. But once a month to stop and reflect and really just sit in the slowness that is my Saturday and Sunday mornings, to revisit that too, my friend. Oh my gosh, you channel those mind states. You go back. It's like a time capsule. But ultimately what I'd love to do is years down the line, basically give this to her.
That is, man, you've inspired a lot of thoughts over here. This seems like sort of the you got to heal to feel. Sorry, you got to feel to heal.
Yes.
Upgraded, because like if you're now just feeling, you're being present, you're being where you are. Yeah. Shout out to Avery, previous guest. You're now accessing a store of energy and perspective and insight that eludes people who don't have that sort of forced rest.
Yes.
Wow. Has that changed your keynote speaking at all?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yeah. So right now, what it's done for me, so I think right now with where we are in keynote speaking, I'm speaking either before or after a hell of a lot of AI speakers. And that's, again, that's where my competitive force comes out, because I go, okay, you were probably pretty new to doing this. You're brilliant in your own right, but this is my stage. And so I'm going to come out with the technical know-how, and I'm going to present it in a way that resonates with the audience better. So I think what I'm doing is I'm just doubling down on my craft, because there's a lot of new cats on the circuit, as opposed to reinventing my keynotes. The one piece that being a father has certainly changed it is being able to free flow from mind to mouth on a hell of a lot less sleep. That's the part that takes some adjusting.
I got to ask a couple of questions on this. So like the sleep deprivation over
Yeah.
here. Now we're just going totally off script over here.
Go
This is
for
great. You know what, guys? Side quest. We set this up, right? Like learners, you got to deal with it. Like Adam and I are just first person shooter right now. We're playing co-op mode. Now we're just we're just going off and doing a raid right now. So let's do this raid and come back. And then I want to talk to you about AI speakers real quick.
Yeah.
The sleep deprivation and then standing on stage when you're operating on less than 6.
Mm-hmm.
How does that look?
It's tough. It's not impossible.
Yeah.
I think it was something that I needed to get used to because, and you know my style, I tend to be pretty high energy. Well, how do you channel that when you simply aren't high energy? You know, what do you do there? It took some adjusting, but like everything else in life, a little bit of practice and you get there.
Do you ever feel the fog to the point where like the words are not coming out?
Yes. I sometimes I'm scared. Luckily for me, when I'm crafting keynotes, before I ever step on stage to deliver them, I've rehearsed it ad nauseum. So I know this stuff like the back of my hands. And sometimes there's a little bit of autopilot that kicks in and saves me.
Yeah.
But I will say that some days are better than others. And lately now we've established sort of a post-child, a cadence to what preparation looks like. So I'd like to say that I'm back to what is now my new normal. But I won't lie. There's a reason that sleep deprivation is torture in certain places.
Amen. Yeah. I mean, not amen to that, but like, yes, to the idea, the confirmation of that. It's probably my biggest concern right now. Bailey and I have been very vocal about this. We're like, look, we're knowledge workers. We depend on our brains. We use laptops. We use lavalier mics. Like, this is how we make money. But like, if these kids are going to need, and kids plural, are going to need the bottle every 2 hours.
Yep.
One of us is going to have to,
That's it.
Fall back. One of us is going to have to shoot the chains to open the door while the other person goes in there and slays Crota, right?
Yeah.
Destiny reference. I threw that in there, man.
Hey, shout out Bungie, right? Since we go
shout
from
out to
Halo.
Bungie. This is good to know. I'm very eager to talk to Bailey about what this is going to look like and how we can figure out how not to compromise our work. I do worry about the autopilot. I sense myself sometimes drifting into it.
Yeah.
And I haven't quite figured out how to get out of it yet. I just know that my tell that I'm like not connecting with the audience is I stop making eye contact.
That's a huge one. That's a huge one. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I was seeing in HBR that there's a stat around eye contact. And for many senior leaders in this country, I think it was around 60% of them, a lack of eye contact is directly correlated with a lack of trust as well as credibility. And so we can't lose that as a result of autopilot. There's certain things that we can probably compromise on that by doing this for over a decade, we know we can lean on in terms of our skill set. That can't be one of them.
I hear you, bro. And this is a good reminder because I'm going into a very, not hostile necessarily, but like a very skeptical audience tomorrow.
Okay.
And I know that my defense mechanism when I'm dealing with that is look at the top of people's heads. Age-old advice. Like one of the first things you're told as a speaker, but then you quickly realize that like doing that is you're doing yourself a disservice and the audience a disservice. So now I lock eyes, but I don't make it weird, right? I'll lock eyes and then I'll like shift, but not to the point where I seem erratic over there. But whenever I do feel a little bit of not animosity, not hostility, but I feel a little bit of tension, I'll like go back a little bit, look to the top of people's heads and recompose myself. But when I do that, that's when the autopilot kicks in. Yeah. So I have to figure out, you know what? I have to be like Lucius Fox over here and go in and fix the little Batwing. You know?
That's it. That's right. Christian Bale's going to call you and say, I need the latest and greatest. And I'm sure you will iterate and keep your job at Wayne Tech. Yeah.
And I do have it in black. Just saying.
Of course.
Bro, okay. One more side quest over here.
Hit me, absolutely.
This is going to require us to be in our bag a little bit.
Okay.
Because we're competitive on 3 levels. We're competitive gamers. We're competitive on the level of hip hop, competitive on the level of ball. So, you have also noticed that there's a lot of new cats on the block. And I see him and I'm like, I know, I'm Unc. I was once you. I was once riding my wave. My wave was social media. You're riding the AI wave. I see you, but like, to quote Nicki Minaj, right? My sons.
Yes, absolutely.
How are you making meaning of the new cats over there that are nipping at the legs of the lion?
Absolutely. So first off, shout out to anybody who's doing it because even doing it is tremendous.
Yes,
right?
yes. Just to be clear, I'm not a hater. I'm not salty. I'm not bitter.
You didn't.
More love. This is a round table. Everybody's invited.
It is. And I think for a lot of them, they're demos. They lean on demos to create a spectacle. It's amazing, right? But it leaves the audience in awe. And so what I do is I think about, okay, what does that mean for me who has to follow this, right? Yeah. I don't have any shiny tricks. Most of the time I'm slideless. So I'm relying on my voice. I'm relying on this.
Slideless.
I'm
Sorry,
slideless.
dude, he's slideless.
That's right. And that's the beauty of starting and cutting my teeth on stand-up comedy.
Shit, man.
There is nothing up there but you. And it really takes your material down to bare bones in terms of what's working and what's not. And sometimes when I see that, I too get a little bit of imposter syndrome. I go, they just cold called 60,000 people in 1 second and he built this agentic AI in what? Like 14 seconds? They're all downloading the app right now. How are they going to care this much about what you have to say? And then I go, you're here because you earned it. You're closing because of reputation. Go be the person that they think you are. And so while I welcome the challenge for these people as well, I will probably have that mind shift of, we're going to collaborate at some point. But for right now, I got to beat you, your competition.
Dude, wow. Did you ever see that Donald Glover post where he was just writing on like hotel notes?
Yes.
And he's like, my biggest fear is becoming Danny Glover.
Yeah.
Right? I had a moment like that. I would say this happened 2 years ago. Late 2023 or like early 2024. I was closing and it was one of those weird events where they did a double keynote closer. Like it was just, I don't understand why they do that, but have you ever had that? Where
I've
they get
never.
like one keynote after another? So this other guy goes up before me. Shout out to Hamza. His name was Hamza as well. And we looked the same, right? And like his whole keynote was an anti-keynote. So he goes up there, he's dressed in jeans, a sweater on. He's just being light himself, standing by the podium, no theatrics, and he's just walking people through how he's used AI. And I'm like, I'm going to swear over it. But I'm like, dude, you have access to a level of ease and utility because people were like phones out, scrawling notes and stuff too. And I got in my head, I'm like, oh shit. Okay, like I allude to AI in this, but like I'm clearly a leadership speaker over here. And I'm like, oh no, but this is a keynote that I've done many times before. I started to get paranoid because my biggest fear is becoming this one speaker that I saw when I was at undergrad and that I saw when I keynoted a conference and he was opening and I was closing. And I'm like, oh, dude, he did the exact same speech from 10 years ago. And I'm like, this guy has just become a bit of a hack. Like he's just a keynote speaker who does nothing other than keynote speaking, which net positive.
Yeah.
Just, it's all love, right? But I'm like, there's nothing else here.
Yeah, it's rinse and repeat.
It's rinse and repeat. And I'm like, that is my biggest fear. And then I had that paranoid moment. I'm like, how have I become that guy? And I went on stage and it was lukewarm. The laughs just weren't there. I wasn't connecting, but people resonated with it afterwards. It was good. But by my standards, it was like a 4 out of 10.
Yeah.
Audience's perspective, I thought it was like anywhere between 7 and I'll give myself 9.5.
Okay.
But that was the moment for me. That was like, I'm like, I can never feel this way again. I'm like, what he was doing on stage, I know how to do it. I do that every day. I'm an AI power user. And if all I have to do is just bring that into my world a little bit more, bet, easy. Yeah. The keynotes changed dramatically overnight. And so like I put a lot of distance between myself and the novice speakers, but I'm now keeping an eye on them because I think I got a little sloppy there. I think I was just like, hey man, like I've reached an upper echelon over there. But when I realized that how quickly the market was moving, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. You don't have to do a lot these days to impress.
Yeah. Absolutely. It takes me back to one of my favorite hip hop lyrics. You weren't there when we were shooting in the gym. I think now more than ever, I'm there when everybody's shooting in the gym.
Yeah.
So I won't just simply show up for mic checks and then get on stage. If there is space in my schedule to attend earlier keynotes, see what these guys are bringing to the table, and ladies, I will 100% be there because I do believe that we've cultivated a space where we can all learn from each other. But in terms of the craft of public speaking, of talking like TED, I want to be that guy. That's the thing that I'm trying to do. So although there's all these new cats who have the cool tech and the new tools, I want to be the one up there that they go, wow, like, is it 45 minutes already? I didn't look away from him.
That is the ultimate compliment, man. And I think you've done that, right? The fact that you're slideless right now, like I'm feeling competitive. I'm like, this is now J. Cole being like, oh shit, like Drake just dropped Lucy's over here, 100 gigs, just happened over here. I'm like, what the heck? This guy doesn't even have cover art over here.
Yeah, he just had it on his phone. Yeah.
That's how I feel right now. I'm like, oh, maybe I should attempt a version of this without slides. I think I can do it.
I know you can.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I think I would say I'm like 80% of the way there, but I'm going to try it now. I'm actually going to try it because I'm like at the back of my mind now I know that like the game has evolved to the point where dude's doing magic on stage.
Oh my gosh.
Without slides, that's magic.
Well,
in my world, that's magic.
Thank you. I think back to a recent shot somebody shared from one of your keynotes, and I think all you had on one slide was the word hope.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like you got the one slide, you got the one word on the slide. You're almost there anyways, right? Because I'm sure what you're doing is reinforcing that message of hope as you do so brilliantly.
Oh, dude, I've actually gotten down to a point right now where like the messages are getting simpler and the pops are getting better.
Yeah, I bet it.
And I'm just like, this seems counterintuitive. I had to overcome that hurdle of being like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, dude, like, there's no framework here.
Yeah, it's too rudimentary.
It's too rudimentary. It's almost pedantic to me. But I'm like, hold on, this is disrespectful to the audience. Because if this is what y'all want, then from a fellow content, world of marketing communication, I come from it as well. From a content strategy perspective, it's not just the story you want to tell, it's the story the audience wants to receive.
Absolutely.
And so you got to meet it right there. My guy, this was a lot of fun, a lot of side quests. One big main quest that was completed. So well done. We achieved all stars across the board. We're definitely, we put some numbers up, but I really, really just enjoyed this. Thank you for your vulnerability. Thank you for, just modeling for myself and for the learners what healthy collaboration and competition looks like, man. I cannot wait. The day hasn't happened yet, but one day, and I'm going to put a stamp on it, within the next 12 months, you and I are going to be on the stage together.
I would love nothing more. But what a full circle moment for me. And you talk about, your book being used in the military. I mean, you have an Army background. Like for you've already had so many of those full circle moments. I want this one.
Listen, grand opening, grand closing. In fact, I think what's going to be crazy is if we actually, the audience won't know this, but like we show up on each other, we just do feature tracks.
Oh my God.
Right? Like, and now like, here comes Adam on Hamza's stage, and Hamza shows up on Adam's stage. That could be a lot of fun. Speaking of stage, one last thing. I say one last thing. There's probably going to be like 3 more things, but I will get you out of here in time.
It's all good.
Dude, congratulations. Convocation.
Thank you.
May every keynote speaker get a chance to deliver a convocation address. If you can do it at your alma mater, even better. Walk me through it, man, because I've never talked to anybody else that has done a UTSC convocation.
So, although so much of my journey started with watching your TED Talk, I did not dare watch your convocation address because I was like, no, this is too close. I'm going to probably draw from it. And so I didn't watch it. And what was amazing to me is my mind gravitated to the exact same place that yours did, which was you did it in 2019 where you were able to draw on our hometown Raptors lifting their first championship. Amazing. And I thought it was so beautifully done how you even called out the players by name in that, right?
Fred VanVleet, undrafted.
That's it, right? And I went to a similar place because it was 2024 and we had just had the Summer Olympics. I went to the 4x100 men's relay team. And so for me, having an aha moment of, oh my God, Hamza had the exact same train of thought to make leadership accessible, to tell them what they wanted to do. That was for me one of those humbling moments. I couldn't believe that I was asked to do this because like you, I have struggled with imposter syndrome my whole life. And so for the university to put that trust in me and give me the microphone with really, I mean, you send in your script ahead of time, but there were no notes. And with me, you probably need a few notes. That was just so great. I know that that's something that will be a moment that I will cherish for the rest of my life.
And you know what? When you look at the trophies case, full circle over here, that is one trophy, man.
That's it. Can you hear the bum, 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 bum?
Shit don't come with trophies. Ain't no envelopes to open. But that right there is a lion, tiger, and bear on your fireplace, man. Way to go. You know what? I haven't dropped an F-bomb on the show for a long time. Here we go. I'm fucking proud of you, bro.
Dude.
I am fucking proud of you.
It was hard for me not to. I don't know if you know this, but I'm pretty unfiltered in most of the things that I do. Yeah. So because you didn't swear, I also didn't swear. But the fact that you went there, I fucking love it. Yeah.
There we go. My guy, Adam. That, my friends, was Adam Rodricks, and what a masterclass in storytelling, in presence, in purpose, in just humanity. Adam reminds us that our voice is our power, that when we root our digital presence in authenticity and care, it doesn't just grow our personal brand, it actually grows our impact. His journey proves that the stories we tell about ourselves, about our work, about our lives, about the people in them are not just content, they're actually connection, they're legacy. Adam, brother, thank you for showing us how to build a world of mouth that's honest, human, and hopeful. I'm Hamza Khan, and this is Sage Advice. Until next time, stay hopeful.